it's fair to say that one of our major concerns at the start of the season, once we'd established that we were going to go with Michail Antonio as our one and only recognised striker, and let's be fair, he's not really a recognised striker, but let's leave that to one side for the moment. The concern was that, okay, this guy's going to be spearheading our attack. The worry is that he was injury prone. I mean, he really, really was. And that in itself was a massive risk, even if you take away the risk that he wasn't actually a striker. I think he'd shown enough in the previous season to suggest that he could be utilised in that role. I don't think that was really a doubt. Can this guy, who's a converted winger, play as a striker? Yes. The answer was yes. The question as whether he could do it on his own, I think, was a resounding no. I don't think any of us thought that he could retain any level of fitness. I mean, his hamstrings they would go constantly. And I think it's a massive testament, really, to the club, the doctors, physios, whatever it is, that they've managed to keep him fit. He's played most of the games, and that has been a massive surprise for one and all. Not only has he played most of the Premier League games, he's played some Europa games, and, of course, he's played some cup games as well. I mean, it really has been, in terms of fitness, miraculous. And then you add in the factor that he's been and played for Jamaica. I think he's gone away twice, and each time he's played either 2 or 3 games. Now, you'll already know the news now that he's not going. He's not been called up to the latest Jamaica squad, which I think is absolutely pivotal, absolutely crucial for him, by the way. I say he's not been called up. Clearly a conversation has been had, and I think it's the sensible decision. Obviously, Antonio wanted a chance at glory, wanted to go and play in a World Cup. Couldn't do it with England. He had a shot of doing so with Jamaica. They've not qualified. That's that. Will he go back and play for them again? I'm pretty sure he will, but bearing in mind they can't qualify, it made no sense for him to play now. Basically, on all sides, the correct decision has been made. But David Moyes alluded to it on a number of occasions, very recently as well. He's been more vocal about Antonio recently. He's spoken, he's gone public about the Jamaica call-up, saying we didn't expect that to happen. Didn't say in a nasty way or anything like that, but there was enough in his sort of understated tone to suggest he was making a little bit of a point. And then more recently, he's alluded to the fact that he doesn't know what's wrong with Antonio. It's not really working out. Now, when I look at that, and then I look at the most recent substitution that we've just seen in the Tottenham game, that was an early sub by Moyes', even by Moyes' standards, and I do think it was warranted because Antonio wasn't playing well. He had 2 chances. One of them he missed by about a foot. The other one he missed by about 30 foot. And I think the difference is, in this instance, with that substitution, is that Moyes felt he had an option. Now, I think Moyes probably got it wrong because he didn't have an option. What he thought that option was Yarmolenko. It now appears that Yarmolenko, when he scored the 2 goals recently, was probably running on empty. And because he was running empty, he was using adrenaline. Well, adrenaline will only get you so far. And asked to do a longer stint, certainly off the back of his heroics against Sevilla, asked to do a longer stint against Tottenham. It just didn't work. He's out of shape. Actually, not physical shape. He looks fit as a fiddle, but in terms of match sharpness, it just wasn't there. And you can understand it. There's no problem there at all. The point is, Moyes thought he had an option. Moyes thought, Antonio's tiring. Do I have another striker? Is there another go-to option there? Yes, Yarmolenko, I'll go for him. The fact it didn't work doesn't matter. It's the fact that Moyes looked for it. And I just had a little look, and I think Antonio has scored 8 goals this season. I think he scored 8 goals in the league. Now, he's got 7 assists. Actually, put together, that ain't too bad, really. Let's be 15 goal involvements, ain't too bad. But you've also got to suggest, look at his cross, look at his assist very recently against Sevilla. There was nothing before that. He almost got an assist by setting up Thomas Souček against Tottenham. They're coming from wide areas. I would argue that he'd be getting those assists anyway if he was playing as a winger. Certainly his crossing off his weak foot has really improved. I just don't think, bearing in mind that none of us expected him to be fit, he's hit the heights that we thought he would. In effect, we've had a chance to see Antonio have almost a full season as a striker. And I think I would have to say, by the assessment, he ain't prolific enough. Not for what we want to do, not for where we want to go. We spread the goals over the team, that's great. Okay, look, Man City can do that, that's fantastic. But if what you want to be doing is operating near or about the very top of the league, then somebody that's going to get you 15 to 20 goals a season is what you're going to need. And I would argue Antonio just ain't that man. Now, I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater. Far from it. Far from it. I think there's a massive role for Antonio as the backup striker and as a starting winger. Absolutely, I believe that. I just think the experiment has finished, really, and I think it will go for this season. Then it's done, and I'll explain why in just a second. Before I do, this is sponsored. This video is sponsored by the OneFootball app. There's a little link, some text below this screen. You click on that or use the QR code up there. You download it to your phone. It's very quick. It's very easy. Best of all, it's free. And what it will do is it will give you the news that you want. It's an app that tailors the news to the news that's of your specifications. What you want to do is click I support West Ham, click that I follow England or whoever you may follow. It will scour the newspapers, scour all those generic Premier League sites, pick out all the England and West Ham stories, put them all to one place, send out a notification to your phone, and then you can read all about the news, the gossip, the injury news, the fixtures, results, all of that good stuff. Use the link below. I know you come from Hammers Chat. It's very, very much appreciated. Now, David Moyes has gone, I think, a little bit public on players sometimes. One of them is Youssef En-Nesyri. Now, we faced him. We had a good look at him against Sevilla. Again, put aside whether you think he's any good for West Ham or not. That's another subject, really, isn't it? Entirely whether David Moyes, having had a close look at Núñez, would now consider him to be a viable option. But just park that idea for a moment. The point of the matter is, was David Moyes last year ready to spend £45 million on Youssef En-Nesyri as a striker for West Ham? Yes. The answer is just yes, whether you think that's a good decision or a bad decision. Now fast forward to this season, and was David Moyes or the club, were they bidding for Darwin Núñez, Benfica, the Uruguayan striker, whatever the bid was, between 40 and 50 million, we don't know. The answer is yes. Very rarely does David Moyes go public on these sort of things. Definitely interested in both of those players. What that shows us is on two separate occasions, Moyes is willing to spend in excess of £40 million on a striker. Now, let me get this absolutely right. Let's make this point. There is no way that West Ham, no way that David Moyes spend money on that sort of player of that price and that calibre and them not play. Those guys come in, they come in as the main striker. They really do. What situation does that leave Antonio in? Well, pretty much the one I just said, which is a reserve striker, a backup striker, and a winger. Doesn't mean he doesn't play, far from it. But I think the indication is there already from David Moyes that actually, whilst he might say the right things, this experiment with Antonio as the number 9 was never going to be a long-term strategy. It was something that was, I guess, a necessity. Really, had he got En-Nesyri, then I just think this season may have played out very differently. I'm not talking about results or anything like that. I think you just might well have seen Antonio as our left winger on a number of occasions. I've said for many, many times I don't think we have somebody that naturally plays that position really, really well. And I don't mean to be harsh on Antonio, because Antonio asked for this. It was when it was first suggested, and it was Moyes doing this, and Nolan was training him up and working on his finishing. When it was first suggested that Antonio might be able to be our striker, he absolutely encouraged it. He wanted that, and rightly so. He took the idea, he ran with it, and even said, "Give me the number 9 shirt. I will take this responsibility and literally festoon the striker's number across my shirt." And he's done that. Unfortunately, I just don't think it has worked. I think you can probably use the barometer of this season. Is he an effective player? Yes. Is he a good player? Yes. But is he the out-and-out striker we need? No. I do think the Jamaica call-ups have really impacted him. But that's, while you can offer that as mitigation, it is still something that he does now. And I think when you factor that in, when you factor actually has long periods of play after the international call-ups, when he's looked knackered, you have to probably suggest, well, that's probably going to happen in the future as well. So actually what we need to do is we need to, as a team, as a club, we need to insulate ourselves from that. And obviously by getting another striker in. What I would say is, though, he's got 2 weeks coming up now where he needs to rest. And I think he will rest. And I think this is a massive opportunity for him and for the club. As I say, the long-term solution, no. But this is 2 weeks for Michail Antonio to get back into beast mode. This is 2 weeks for him to do whatever they do on the training ground. That's, look, I don't know enough about sports science or anything like this. If it were me, it would be a week, whatever, 5-6 days, go home, have a rest up. Then a couple of days back in. Let's get your recovery going. Let's work on all that sort of medical stuff, the sports science stuff, and then get him up. So when the game against Everton comes around, he is fighting fit, fresh, and massively rested. Because they're there to be got at Everton. Let's be fair, they're a wounded animal at the moment, and we've got to go for it. No better to attack a wounded animal than a beast, obviously. And I think he can have a really good end to the season. I really do. I think this rest is vital. And I think by the end of the season, we could have a situation where Michail Antonio has actually scored some goals, is back to his best, back to beast mode, where West Ham, we've got a decent run of fixtures, where actually things are looking pretty good for us in terms of the league, in terms of a European finish, and hopefully in European competition as well. And maybe scoring goals. What I do think is important, though, is we don't get to the end of the season, and when we get there, look back and think, well, actually, in the run-in, he was really good. Antonio was really good. He looked like that striker. Because the same thing will just happen next season. What we don't want to do is repeat the same mistake, which is, at the end of last season, he was absolutely firing, by the way, which I think went some way towards convincing him and convincing the club that he could be the guy. And he can be the guy, but he can't be the only guy. And I think it's really important we don't get to that point and think, okay, well, we're going to do the same again. I don't think he needs to retrain as a winger, by the way. Far from it. I think he's already got all the attributes there, but I think what we have to accept, and this is what we didn't know, and just going back to the start of the video, no one expected Michail Antonio to be fit enough to play a full season. All right, he might have had the odd game here or there, but I think by and large you can say he's played a full season, or up to this point at least. What we have discovered is, if he plays a full season, we probably ain't getting those 20 goals that we need. If he does play a full season and he's going to play international and European football, a massive demand on him. I don't blame him, by the way, for not being able to carry the attack on his own. We have discovered that he is going to have patchy form, that he is going to look extremely tired in some of those because the workload is just too much. And if we accept all of that, and I think that is, a fair observation, we have to accept that he cannot lead the line on his own. What we need is a proper striker, a bona fide striker, and Antonio is there to give him, whoever that striker might be, a rest. I'm really pleased with how we spread the goals around the team. I think last season a massive part of those goals were obviously Souček. This season, obviously Bowen has stepped up in a massive way with his goals and his assists, certainly. But you can't keep relying on that. As I say, even Man City, who have developed this plan of playing with a strikerless system, are still probably going to break a transfer record by buying a striker. So even as good as they are, with all De Bruyne and Silva and Mahrez and all these other players, even Pep Guardiola is saying that that's okay, but we're going to need a striker here. So it's really important we do that. Spreading the goals around the team has worked up to now. But to go to that next level, and that's really what we want, we need to address that. We need to address the Antonio situation. So I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater. Far from it. Antonio could have a really good 2 or 3 seasons at West Ham. Well, I hope he does. He's just signed a new contract for 2 or 3 seasons. So hope it's going to go well. He has much to offer as our main striker. No, I think he'll sit for the rest of this season. But just looking at the players we're looking at, the substitution, the fatigue, I I think the experiment Michail Antonio as our main striker is done.